What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So it has been a busy news week. So we're going to get caught up on several stories. Some of these are a bit old. I get that. So some of this you may have already heard about, but we're still going to cover it anyways because, again, some of this came out earlier this past week. Didn't have a chance to cover it or talk about it, but we're going to do that today. We have roughly 6 updates that we're quickly going to go through for this video. So it might be a little longer than normal. Typically, I would do 1 or 2 updates per video, but I figure let's just condense all this into one video and just, crank through it as quickly as we can. So let's just jump right into the first one. We've been talking about the Peacock's streaming platform, the Friday the 13th prequel series Crystal Lake, I'd say an extensive amount as far as casting, first look images, the synopsis, what we think the story is going to be. But now we have confirmation that, as you see here, Crystal Lake finds its Jason Voorhees and Chucky actor. So we are going to see a young Jason Voorhees in this series. Now, how much we're going to see Jason is yet to be determined. I imagine we're going to see him, I think it's an 8-episode series, so I imagine we're going to see him for at least 6, maybe 7 episodes, 6.5, 7 episodes. I'm guessing somewhere around there, but it all depends upon how they plan on ending this series. So if they're going to leave it open for a possible season, turning this into a season 1 and then having a season 2, I think that's where we're going to get into some tricky territory, because if they are planning to make this a one and done, then I'd imagine Jason will drown at the end of this series. Then we just immediately skip right to 3 scenarios. We skip right then to Friday the 13th, the original film, which would be a time jump from this point to then, because we know Mrs. Voorhees is the killer in the original film. Second scenario is Jason drowns, and we then get a season 2, and we see the downward spiral. We see the time in between from when Jason's drowned and what happens with Mrs. Voorhees up until the first film, or we just end it, right? Or they kind of create a separate timeline, which I don't think they're going to do. I think it's going to be one of the first 2 scenarios. So let's jump right into it. Filming is underway on showrunner Brad Caleb Kane's Crystal Lake, which is the upcoming Friday the 13th television series from Peacock and A24 that will serve as an expanded prequel to the legendary slasher franchise. And the new Jason Voorhees has boarded the project. Callum Vinson has joined the series as young Jason Voorhees, Deadline reported. Vincent, who recently starred as Henry Collins in Chucky Season 3, is billed as a reoccurring guest star as this new project focuses on Jason's mother, Pamela Voorhees. So that then, if he's only a reoccurring and he's a guest star, then he might just be popping in and out as far as the episodes go. But I have a feeling they're going to do the drowning somewhere probably in episode 7, probably early on, maybe halfway through. So then we see the downward spiral on the back half of that episode 7 and then through episode 8. Again, I think this is 8 episodes, but if it's not, then I think that's how it will play out for the last 2 episodes. The series version of Pamela Voorhees is believed to be a mother who had given up a singing career to raise a special needs child and takes a dark turn when she loses her son. So, right there, we know she's going to lose her son. They're pretty much telling us that at this point. This hasn't been, to my knowledge, and I can remember every time we've covered this series, they haven't told us that. This is one of the first times I'm seeing that they're coming out and clearly saying she loses her son. So that tells me, again, as I just mentioned, more likely we're going to see Jason drown. It's what happens after that I think is still up in the air. Will this be a one and done series, or will this turn into a season 1 with the potential of a season 2, depending upon the numbers as far as probably how many people watch this series, how popular it's going to be, because they're really trying to push the Friday the 13th universe right now. We have some of the casting information here, which we've touched on all of this stuff. None of this is new here as far as who's going to be playing Mrs. Voorhees. She's also joined by, as you can see here, some other casting here, which we're not going to read through. We don't necessarily need to read through all that. It's old information. We've already covered it all. Fans of the original will recognize those, as far as the names up above, those names. The character Barry Jackson appeared in the original Friday the 13th film as a camp counselor and famously Pamela's first victim. His girlfriend, Claudette Hayes, also a camp counselor, was Pamela's second victim. So it's interesting that they're saying that if we recognize some of these names because that character, so don't know if it's going to be the same character. If it is, in fact, the same character, then we know this could lead into just a one and done. And whatever happens after whatever episode Jason drowns in this series, then we're going to be pretty much jumping right to the Friday the 13th film. Because if you remember, I think at the end of that film, Jason comes, a child Jason comes out of the water, right? It wasn't an adult Jason. That was the dream sequence or what we saw. Let's keep going. So yeah, right here, an 8-episode series is set to be directed. So it is going to be 8 episodes. I thought it was 8. I couldn't remember if it was going to be 10, but here it is. It's going to be 8. So maybe Jason drowns in episode 6, and then we see a little bit more focus on Mrs. Voorhees. But if he's only guest starring, we may only see him a couple times throughout the series. But I can't preface enough that I'd be surprised if they don't cover the drowning it's somewhere mid-season 4 or 5, the latest 6. And again, in order for us to really focus on Mrs. Voorhees. The series will notably bring the Friday the 13th franchise back to life after 16 years of the issue rights. We know all that. We've covered that. Again, I think this is just a kickoff to the broader Friday 13th universe that they're really trying to push now. We've seen some concept art of what Jason is going to be looking like going forward. They're doing some sort of ale, beer for this universe. I know they're doing a short film, which I think is just, in my opinion, dumb. I don't know why you would waste any time doing something like that. But again, they're really trying to expand this. Vincent marks the newest and one of the youngest to play the horror icon, and that's where this one ended. So, again, I think we got some significant updates here. We know that they're calling out some characters that were the victims from the original film that are going to show up in this one based on the character names. We know it's 8 episodes. We now have a deeper synopsis as far as the Jason dying, because it says right there, special needs child takes a dark turn when she loses her son. So I'm assuming that that's going to take place in this series, which again leads me to believe this is going to be a one and done. So we know the production's already started, so I still think it's going to be a minute before we get any teaser trailers, any full trailers, first image shots. So again, think it's going to be a while. I imagine probably in the next 3 to 4 months we'll have something to come back and look at. So, all right, that's going to do it for this one. Let's jump to our next topic, which we've covered this one, so I'm not surprised to be talking about it. I think for many people, this first film in a violent nature was either you loved it or you hated it. I don't think there was a lot of middle ground here. And either you loved it or you were possibly disappointed in it. Not maybe you didn't hate it, but you were very disappointed. I fell in that camp. I was disappointed. I know it had some, I would say some pretty good kills in it, but for the most part, from an end-to-end film, it wasn't what I was expecting. And I expected a bit more when we did the trailer review a while back when the first film was coming out. I was really excited to see this one. I made no bones about it. I was behind this film, the first one. Again, I was disappointed, and a lot of people that I know saw it were also disappointed, but there is a following for this film, and it was soon after the release of the first film that they gave the green light for a second film. So here we are in A Violent Nature 2 to start production in September. So we are just we're in July, August, so we got another month and 2 weeks, so roughly 6 to 7 weeks, maybe a little bit more than 7 weeks before they are supposed to start production on this. So let's jump into this one. In Violent Nature 2 will start production in Canada this September. Announced last year at San Diego Comic-Con, the sequel to the art house slasher is once again written by Chris Nash, who is also expected to return to the director's chair. So, that's a positive point, I think, for any film, especially when you're doing a sequel. I think sometimes when we get sequels, when you bring in somebody completely different to write or direct, at times it doesn't have the same feeling and consistency as the original film, where you can tell somebody else wrote this, somebody else is directing this, other people were involved, because they feel a little disjointed. So I think that's one good thing it has going for it. You have the original writer-director expected to come back and do this film, which it should feel cohesive as far as moving from the first film to the second film. Let's keep going. In a Violent Nature was originally conceived as a meta-sequel within a fictional slasher series. So this is a quote here. So we were always imagining mayhem beyond the scope of the original film. that we now have the opportunity to continue following Johnny on his restless walk has us feeling incredibly grateful to our incredible partners at IFC Films / Shudder, who believed in Chris's vision from day one. We are thrilled to return for a new chapter and are excited to deploy Johnny as a conduit to further experiments in the genre. The first film, when a locket is removed from a collapsed fire tower in the woods that entombs the rotten corpse of Johnny, a vengeful spirit spurred on by a horrific 60-year-old crime, his body is resurrected and becomes hell-bent on retrieving it. The undead golem hones in on the group of so this is pretty much just a synopsis of the original one. We have a review here, so we'll read this review because this film has been out for a while. I think vast majority of you have all probably seen this film. I'd be surprised if you haven't, but if you haven't, you're going to be probably a little spoiled here. And if you have Shudder, go over to Shudder. It's on there. So Megan Navarro, which I believe is the author of this article as well, wrote in her review, "Invalid nature may offer slashers thrills and delightfully gory rampage across the wilderness, but Nash's approach captures the carnage through a ambient realism. It results in a fascinating art house horror experiment that plays more like a minimalist slice of life feature with a grim twist." All right, so then we have We have the first poster here, one of the first posters I've seen for Invalid Nature 2. Now, you guys know me. I think this. I have enjoyed the first film, but when it comes to the poster for the second film, absolutely 100% love it. It's clean. It literally just has the title and a little thing at the bottom, just as far as where who's backing it, Shudder and IFC Films. Otherwise, you have just a bloody hook here with a chain connected to it. That's what I want to see when it comes to a movie poster. So that already, I give them a thumbs up. They have me on that one for a win. Will I still see this film? Yes, I'll still see it. And I know there's going to be people out there that may comment on this saying, well, if you didn't like the first film, why are you going to watch the second film? Because I'm willing to give it a chance to win me over. That's why I'm going to watch it. And I'm a horror fan, so why wouldn't I give it a chance to win me over? I think there's plenty of franchises out there where maybe the first film wasn't as good, but some of the sequels may be better. So again, I'm okay being disappointed in the first film and still saying I'll give the second one a chance. So more to come on this one. Again, production to start this September for In a Violent Nature 2. And again, I love the poster, and obviously we have this image here from the first film. All right, let's jump over to the next one. So I might get the name. I'm just going to go by her first name because I'm not really too sure how to pronounce her last name. So Naomi, in early talks to join Tom Rhys Harris is, again, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, to star in Clayface. So we've been covering Clayface since it was announced, because I was really excited because Mike Flanagan has been in a lot of projects. He was involved in this one, and I'm still vastly confused about why we keep mentioning Mike Flanagan, especially on the subheadline. Mike Flanagan wrote the script for director James Watkins. Yes, we know Flanagan wrote the original script. That's what got James Gunn bought into doing Clayface for the DC universe. But they've brought in a completely new person to come in and do rewrites. And do we know the extent of the rewrites? No. But the fact that you have somebody else coming in and to do the rewrites tells me it's very possible much of or a good portion, who knows what that percentage is, of what Mike Flanagan wrote is not going to be what he had envisioned, which again, we can come to that conclusion to some degree because you're bringing somebody else in to do a rewrites for it. So Naomi, the multifaceted actress from Mickey 17 and Blink Twice, which we did see Blink Twice, I still need to do a movie review on that, is joining the DCU in Clayface. Naomi is in early talks to join the up-and-coming Welsh actor Tom, who is playing the supervillain in the movie from Speak No Evil director James Watkins, which we need to do a review on Speak No Evil as well, on the original and the remake. Reading sessions took place in England last week, with Naomi emerging as the choice. Formal negotiations are due to begin this week, according to several sources, which would be going into next week, because this information just broke a couple days ago. And again, here we are again. Mike Flanagan wrote the script for Clayface, a body horror thriller centered on a Batman villain known for his ability to alter his appearance. Again, I don't know why we keep pushing that fact because that fact has changed. The project is described as having shades and structure of The Fly, David Cronenberg's 1986 that starred Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis, and centered on the tragic relationship between a scientist who becomes fused with the DNA of a fly and the journalist writing about his discovery. So it does have a budget here. This is the first time I'm seeing that we do know what the budget is going to be. It says about mid $40 million range, centers on an ascending actor. So we have a synopsis here of what it's going to be about. So we've covered that. I think all of us know some of the origins about Clayface. The film is already dated for September 11th, 2026, one of the surprise early entries of the James Gunn and Peter Safran DC era, coming in ahead of the better-known characters like Wonder Woman. The Batman director Matt Reeves will produce along with Lynn Harris, Gunn, and Safran. So that I am glad to see that. I am glad to see Matt Reeves is going to be involved, because I think Matt Reeves I think he did extremely well with the Batman and the Penguin series. I know I enjoyed the Penguin series. I was hoping we would eventually get a season 2. I'm surprised they have not officially and greenlit a season 2 for that, especially the fact that the Batman Part 2 has continually been pushed out. You would think they'd want to fill in some of that time with what's going on in that particular part of the, I guess we can call it an Elseworld story, because it's not connected directly to the DCU that James Gunn had just recently launched with the first feature film of Superman. A little bit more about who Naomi's portray as far as previous work, and that is it. So there was another article out there where James Gunn did come out and say this is going to be a straightforward horror film. While he says that, I'll see it when I believe it. And this is not me being a Gunn hater. There's some of James Gunn's work I do like, some of it I don't like. Overall, it is what it is, right? I'm not one of those fanboys that's just going to say I absolutely love everything James Gunn does, nor am I going to say everything he does is trash. So that's just my opinion. I think more to come on that if it's actually going to be a straight up horror film, because again, he's known to not tell the truth when it comes to what films are going to be about, what TV series are going to be about. So we'll have to wait and see. I'll believe it when I see it, if this is going to be a straight up horror film. All right, let's keep going. Some interesting news here, which I think is, again, not misleading. I think something we would have wished to have seen years ago as far as a sequel, but it's going to be coming in the form of a comic. Tim Burton's Headless Horseman to Ride Again in Sleepy Hollow sequel comic. I'm not one for this. I'm not one for, if you have a film, and I know, stepping outside of horror for a second, as we were just talking about DC, when you think about Zack Snyder's Justice League, I know a lot of people have said, oh, I'd be happy if he would just finish the story as a comic. I wouldn't be. I would not be happy with that. I want to see it play out live, and I would not be happy with anything animated. I want to see it live. Jumping now back to this, I just wanted to give that as an example. If we were to get a Sleepy Hollow follow-up or sequel, I would have liked to have seen it as a live-action film, not necessarily a comic. That's just me. The Headless Horseman from Tim Burton's gothic fairy tale Sleepy Hollow is mounting up to ride again in a new sequel, this time in comic book form. IDW Publishing's horror imprint IDW Dark will release Return to Sleepy Hollow, a new comic series set 15 years after the events of the movie. Look for the comic to hit shelves October 29th. And then we have the synopsis here. If you didn't know, if you haven't seen this film, I'd be surprised. As you can see, it came out in 1999. So we're talking at least 26 years, a little over 26 years since this came out. It had Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci, and Christopher Walken, who played the Headless Horseman. Buffy the Vampire Slayer comic scribe and Eisner Award winner Casey Gilly has envisioned a deeper evil now lurking in the town for this comic book sequel. Savannah Mayer, making their comics debut, is the artist bringing the story of Return to Sleepy Hollow to life. Ichabod has now built a name for himself as a debunker of occult claims across the world. He receives a frantic letter urging him back to Sleepy Hollow to investigate a string of unexplained murders. This reunites him with his now estranged love, Katrina. Together they will uncover the truth of Sleepy Hollow's origins and the roots that connect them all. Yeah, so I mean, again, the rest of this article just goes on to talk about some of the previous. So we do have the cover art for the comic. I mean, it's a pretty nice cover art. I will give it that. I do like the cover art. Now, I do wonder if we're going to get any variants of this The article does not go on to say how limited of a run this is going to be, how many issues are going to be for this story. I do think there are going to be variants of this. The reason for I say that, because if I'll put the link for this article in the description of the video, but right up here in the corner where it says number 1, $4.99 US, right under it, it says cover A, which to me implies there's going to be a cover, at least a cover B. So I am interested on what variants we're going to get and how many we may get. But I think ultimately, though, it's going to boil down to how many they're going to be printing of this number 1 and those variants. So, all right, that's going to do it for this one. So if you're a Sleepy Hollow fan, if you're a Sleepy Hollow fan of the film, then you're getting a sequel, but in comic print only, and it's going to be set 15 years after the timelines of the original film. All right, let's keep going. We have a couple more to go before we wrap this horror news update up for today. Evil Dead Burn. Filming is underway on the new Evil Dead movie. So let's jump right into this one. I know we have a lot of Evil Dead fans out there, whether it's of the original or of the remake. So we are almost exactly 1 year away from the Evil Dead franchise's return to the big screen with Evil Dead Burn. And we've learned that production has officially kicked off this week. Evil Dead Burn is being, so the director information, Warner Brothers. All right, we have a date here coming July 24th, 2026. Let's keep going. We have casting information, so nothing new there. All right, we have a quote here. Let's see. I told the studio that I wanted to make a nasty film, a film that hurts, from which you come away tested. Speaking with, so this is I don't know how to pronounce the director's name, so I'm just going to kind of skip over his name. Speaking about this Evil Dead project, I'm going to put all the horror I have inside. It will be cathartic, and if I haven't ruined my career and I can continue to make films behind it, I will move on to something other than horror. All right, so it sounds like then this could be his last horror film for a minute. I don't like hearing people say that, especially here. And if I haven't ruined my career and I can continue to make films behind it, I will move on to something other than horror. I don't like hearing that entire statement, because to me that implies, yeah, you're going to put all you can into it, but you're hoping that this horror film doesn't ruin your career. And if it doesn't, you're going to move on from horror. I mean, have a little bit more faith in it, and I don't think that's a fair testament to horror films in general. Even with something like this, I mean, we've seen directors come and go from the horror genre. I don't think directors should ever write off the horror genre if they've spent time into it, because I think there's been directors who have spent a lengthy time of their career in horror. Even if they stepped away for a minute, they come back and they're still just as successful, if not more. So, yeah, I don't like that statement. That's just me. The new course for the Evil Dead franchise is for Sam Raimi to hand select hot up and coming filmmakers to put their own spin on the Deadites, which has been working exceedingly well for the Bloody Saga. Fede Alvarez directed his own take on the original classic in 2013, which paved the way for Lee Cronin's Evil Dead Rise in 2023, 10 years after the remake came out. And that's it. Then we have an Instagram post here, Evil Dead Burn, pretty much indicating that it's starting up. So, all right. Yeah, all right, let's move on for this one. Like I said, I'm not too keen on that comment being made. It is what it is. I just don't think... I mean, don't get me wrong. I know the horror genre is not for everybody, but to say, hey, if I don't ruin my career making this other horror movie, then, I'll move on from horror. So, yeah, I don't like that. So, last update we have here before we close this one out. We talked about this TV series over on Paramount Plus. We did the trailer review reaction for this when it came out. I'm not surprised by this, and I'm still going to watch this series. It just, honestly, it got lost in the shuffle for me. And then they dropped the entire season on one go. I should check, they're anywhere between 42 to 54 minutes long. So again, I haven't gotten to this one yet. I've been focusing on more of I know we've been doing Dexter, we've been doing The Trouble with Tessa from Screambox right now. So once I get those done, we'll jump back into this one since the entire thing's out there. But again, I'm not surprised to see this news. Happy Face, Dennis Quaid's serial killer series canceled by Paramount Plus after one season. Something like this, it's hard to really do multiple seasons on. So again, I'm not surprised to hear this. Deadline reports that Happy Face, the serial killer series starring Dennis Quaid and Amelia Ashford, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, has been canceled by Paramount Plus after just one season. As the show seemed to come and go with little fanfare earlier this year, this isn't a huge surprise. I agree. I know we covered it here. We looked at the teaser. We did again. We reviewed the teaser trailer. We reviewed a lot of the content as far as the updates before this launched, tying it back to the real Happy Face killer. And I can't remember too many other people speaking about it or talking about it. So it did kind of just get released and it was forgotten about. Happy Face was adapted from Melissa Moore's 2018 podcast Happy Face and her 2009 autobiography Shattered Silence, which she co-wrote with M. Bridget Cook. At 15, Moore discovered that her beloved father was the prolific serial killer known as Happy Face. As an adult, she has changed her name and guarded her secret while her father has been serving life in prison. Jumping off from Moore's true life story, the series follows Melissa and her incarcerated father, known as the Happy Face Killer. After decades of no contact, he finally finds... So yeah, this is just the synopsis of the series. We don't need to go over that. Let's see if there's something specific about why it was canceled. This is just a review one of the reviewers for this particular site as far as what they thought of the series. It just indicates Happy Face to be an entertaining series, but it struggles to distinguish between a true crime story and a crime procedural. I can see, and I think that's where it ends off. Yeah, I can see that because when you try to turn these serial killer true stories into a TV series, they're very short-lived, and unless you have something long stretched that you can cover where the serial killer was active for a long period of time, maybe like Ted Bundy or even the Zodiac, I think those you can possibly turn into a TV series. Probably a one and done, 10 episodes. I think maybe Zodiac you could stretch to maybe an 8 episode season 1 and 2, but otherwise they're very hard to do because the story is just very condensed. And once you're in it and you come to the conclusion, okay, they're going to be incarcerated, they're going to be put to death. How much further can you take it, right? So again, not surprised to hear it. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for this horror news update for this past week. Six fairly big things happening in the horror space. So again, we got the casting of Jason Voorhees for Crystal Lake in a Violent Nature to start production here in a couple months. We have Naomi in early talks to join Clayface. Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow is going to get a sequel, but in comic book form. Evil Dead Burn is getting ready also to start production, and the Dennis Quaid Happy Face series was canceled by Paramount Plus after one season. So, all right, that's going to do it for this one. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think about any of the stories that we covered. Don't forget to like, share, and specifically subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one. Later.